Hey, what's up, everybody? Chase Craig here with Own Boise and Keller Williams Realty Boise. And today I want to talk to you about the market dynamics for April of 2019. And without further ado, let's just kind of dive in here. So we're going to take a look at the Ada County existing home market. So this is all of Ada County existing home sales. You can see there's some exclusions down here. They exclude more than 2 acres. There's no condos, townhouses, and less than 10,000 square foot homes. So just some disclaimers down there. That way we get a nice good little average of what the market's doing. We kind of get rid of the outliers. So here's a couple of things that are interesting I wanted to note on the market dynamics right now. So the active listings is up about 170 listings or so month over month from March to April. So that's 789. You can also see the pendings went up quite a bit, so from 753 to 940. Now, what's interesting is you go back to 2018. Well, in April, we had 1,064 pending, and we only had 649 listings. So what does that mean? I wouldn't read into it too much. It's hard to say exactly what the inventory was back then. It was low back then. It's really low right now. I think both scenarios end up having the market be super low inventory, and without really diving into those numbers, it's difficult to say that, oh, look at the trend. We had more pending back then and less inventory, and now we have more inventory and less pending, so we're starting to slow down. Not necessarily. Just be cognitive of that. That low inventory number can really throw things off. Like for example, this number right here. In February, you might remember from my video, we had 6 homes sold in the last 12 months, and there was 1 active listing under 100 grand. So that inventory level actually showed that we had 2 months of inventory. In reality, like anything under 100 grand in Ada County is going to sell in a minute. So to say that we had 2 months worth of inventory was patently false. So the numbers don't always mean what you might think they mean. So just be careful reading into that. Just interesting to note. The other thing to look at is, it's always nice to look at this 10-year historical data. Look at where pricing has gone. I mean, it's just up and up and up and up. And now if you looked at this from like a graph from a long time ago, you'd actually see it was, let's see if I can do this right for the camera. It was going up and then it sharply went down, and the average should have had it up here. And we just finally came back to where we should have been without that correction. So I'm not super concerned about pricing. For as far as local pricing goes, our biggest concern is we need the jobs to follow the pricing. So we need some higher paying jobs to come into the economy. At some point, we're going to run out of people in California selling their houses to come buy houses here. When that happens, and that happened in 2007, we felt it in 2008. They weren't selling their house in California for, 200 or 300 grand more than they bought it 2 years ago. They weren't doing that anymore. And when those guys stopped doing that, they stopped coming here and buying, and then people that actually live here and work here and rely on their income from Boise, we're struggling to afford those homes. And then obviously there was dozens of other issues, which is why the market crashed. It wasn't just that. But that's what the concern probably is today, because we don't necessarily have those same issues that we had back then. The issues we had back then that really caused it to tank is lending restrictions were non-existent, basically. And you had a lot of investors coming into the market, buying to flip, buying with negative cash flow, just buying tons of houses, whatever they could get loans for. And then when they weren't going up in value, they started going down. Well, they have a negative cash flow asset, which is not really an asset if it's negative cash flows. They had those negative cash flow homes, and they just had to walk away from them. And when you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people doing that, that really tanks the economy. Now we don't have that happening today. And if we go more local here, like I've been talking with jobs, I mean, that's probably our biggest concern is finding jobs that can sustain the pricing. So just something to note around the pricing here. And then heading over this way, some things I really like to look at is these inventory numbers. You know what all this means is that if we didn't have any new listings from 4 to 500,000, we only have these 158 listings. Because we sold 903 the last 12 months, we're selling 158 is about 2.1 months worth of supply. So that's all that means. Supply numbers. 4 to 6 months of supply is a balanced market. When you have less than 4 months, it's a seller's market. When you have more than 6 months, it's a buyer's market. So you can see, I mean, we almost don't have any buyer's markets. I mean, really, you could kind of say that's a buyer's market in the $1 million range. I can tell you right now in our market, it's a buyer's market in the $1 million+ range. We're starting to see some concessions happen in that area. I mean, look at the original asking price to the actual sold. They're getting, 93, 94%. So let's just say 7% off the price. Well, that's $70,000, right? So they're having to drop prices in order to get homes sold in that market. Pretty much any of these price ranges right now, if you price it right, you're going to sell. And particularly the markets that are really flying, like anything in Ada County under 300 grand is going really quickly if it's priced right. Really under 600 grand, that's priced right, it's selling pretty fast. So that's about it for these numbers. Just some things that you can note is, these numbers really help us to help you make good decisions when it comes to buying or selling a property. So if you're selling, we can show you, roughly where you need to price your home at in order to be competitive. If you're buying, we can show you what you could reasonably expect to negotiate based on this market. So we kind of have the book on everything. So if you're doing either one of those, just hit us up. We'd be happy to educate you on the process. And obviously, if you're wanting a more specific market analysis tailored to your house, we do that as well, and we'd love to help you with that. So let's jump over to the new construction side of things. And by the way, I guess before we do that, we have this market data for every single market. And we have it for Canyon County too. I'm just highlighting Ada County because that's the majority of our business. But we do a lot of business in Canyon County, and we review this data as well. Just for the video, I'm doing this. But you can see, like, here's Northwest Boise, here is Garden City, here is Boise, West Boise. There's multiple West Boise areas, right? There's Southwest Boise, South Boise. We have everything, the bench, the north end, everything. So we've got it all, and we'd be happy to share this data with you. Just send us an email or give your agent on our team a call, and we'll get it over to you. All right, so here's the new construction. Again, Ada County as a whole. The only thing I want to note for you guys out there on new construction, you can pause this video and study the data all you want. I want to note one thing. New construction in the month of April was 36% of our solds in all of Ada County, which is incredible. So new construction is really helping fill the void right now that we're experiencing in the real estate market. So if it wasn't for all the new construction, you're probably like, what? They're building houses like crazy. They're not building them fast enough, to be honest with you. I mean, they could build a lot more, and we'd be just fine. Even looking at this data, typically our new construction inventory levels don't get as polarizing, right? Like they're not super low and they're not super high, like you might see in the resale market, because they're planning things and they're looking at the market constantly to try and fill it. Well, they would much rather see these numbers around 4 to 6 months, and because they're so low, that means they're not building homes fast enough for the demand. So hopefully that makes sense. If you have questions, hit me up. Again, I'm Chase Craig with Own Boise at Keller Williams Realty, and I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Have an amazing day.